Mars Saturn opposition is affecting us is it's on a very sensitive point in the chart of the United States. And this to me suggests that the ongoing hardships of the American people reach a pivotal moment that may send more crowds into the streets. There may be, I think there is underway a mass mobilization around this Aquarius full moon already. So it would be very apropos if it happened around this full moon. In your personal life, this may clarify precisely how freedom and independence are inhibited due to artificial limits, sudden breakdowns, or dysfunction. And a desire for fairness may be what's at the heart of this. So consider the Libra area of your chart, the house that Libra is on. The themes associated with this house represent the task to be accomplished by taking a risk on your own strength and faith. This place is fired up, but perhaps fearful, or even feels ill prepared for the challenge at hand or the weighty demands that are coming from the Aries place. Something heroic and self-defining is coming together in the Aries place. So this is the part of you that yearns for autonomy and freedom. And this part is awash in ideals, but also aware of the commitment necessary and the resources that are needed to make this dream manifest. That's the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. There is a silver lining, even for the United States. Venus and Jupiter are coming together in the heart-centered, emotionally available sign of Cancer, just 3 days after this full moon. In the United States chart, it will happen right on the sun of the United States. There are a few different ways this could manifest. It may be the sun usually represents the leader of the country, and so this might be good news for Donald Trump. It might be a very self-indulgent moment for him, but it also might bode well for the country at large. This, in our personal lives, is the alignment that is the sweetener to whatever is difficult. The process that is so arduous or so high stakes gets some kind of blessing or a soft landing or a silver lining. So after this potentially charged and tense moment, there is some kind of like sigh of relief. Jupiter in August is now freed from that square to Saturn that characterized July, and now its gifts are more available. There's a lot more ability to trust and expand into Jupiter in Cancer, particularly with Venus co-present. This is definitely like a sense of sweet, tender, loving care in the Cancer place in your chart. In the national perspective, it might be a circling of the wagons. Maybe there's a hunger for more security, more nourishment. There may be issues that are, restored issues around food supply may be improved. And I love to put in unconditional love as well when we have Venus and Jupiter conjoining in that Cancer sign. There's also this sense of being more free, to be generous, to share what we have with those in need, to be more open-hearted with each other in times of crisis, to build a support network, to protect, nourish, nurture, and heal. That speaks so much to Jupiter and Cancer, and that place in our charts, in our lives, is very much softened. And there's a lot more, I guess, what's the word? There's a lot more desire to open ourselves up in this way, with Venus co-present with Jupiter and Cancer. There is this this is the astrological evidence of improvement after this full moon. Mercury will station direct the same day as Saturn and Uranus sextile. So I want to quote the Archetypal Universe book that I'm often referencing, because Ren Butler, the author of this book, has some really interesting ways of describing this blend of Saturn sextile Uranus. It's actually Neptune and Saturn sextile Uranus in August. This is another big alignment that, it's very hard to piece together all the different strands of the enormous archetypes that are being activated now. But I'm going to try. So this period in August, right after the full moon, is when we get the sense of a kind of quiet centeredness. The Saturn and Neptune sextile Uranus. This is the disciplined spiritual practice that is born out of uncertainty and doubt. This brings wisdom, mature detachment, concrete service to those in need. Again, that theme is coming up of being generous to those in need in yet another alignment. This is sacred silence, hard-earned peace. As this is co-present with the trine to Pluto, this alignment can bring a spiritually liberating effect that comes from facing down unconscious pain. So the disillusionment that we talked about, it precedes that rebirth that comes after this full moon. So Saturn and Neptune will sextile Uranus on those two alignments perfect on different days. August 11th, Saturn will sextile Uranus perfectly. On August 28th, Saturn will sextile Neptune perfectly. But these planets move so slowly, they are going to be within orb of this sextile all of August. And so those things that I'm talking about, going through something difficult, having sort of a come to Jesus moment, and then rebirth, and then spiritual surrender, sacred silence. That's what I like about this month. Yes, there's this kind of tense energy as we move into the beginning of the month, but there is some kind of release, catharsis, and spiritual surrender that comes after that. So the next lunation I want to unpack is the new moon in Virgo, which is happening overnight, August 22nd to 23rd, depending on where you are in the US. Now, while Virgo is the sign of the harvest and the new moon is the moment of seed planting, this new moon is kind of like having a baby during an earthquake. It's planting that seed or giving birth to something new, but on very shaky ground. It is very unstable. It's square Uranus almost by exact degree, which is now trine Pluto in Aquarius, all of which are aligned to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So once again, this epic era-defining moment that we're in is getting activated around a lunation. This new moon is almost perfectly aligned to that new paradigm astrologically. And yet it is an uncomfortable angle to it all. So it may require an uncomfortable adjustment to this new normal, and it may mark a charged and sudden event that hammers home the fact that we're not in Kansas anymore, kind of thing. So despite the overwhelming and accelerated ways that life has changed this summer, we must attend to the mundane. That's Virgo's domain, the everyday things that we do to create ritual, to create groundedness, to create a sense of wholeness. So this may be a moment when we attempt a business as usual approach when the events going on around us are anything but. So our attempts to harness control could go sideways around this new moon. The usual ways of bringing order to chaos may not work because this is a different kind of disorder. And we may find that the Virgoan inclination to help backfires a bit or doesn't go the way we expect or is harder than it should be. And our own hubris may be to blame. Mercury rules this lunation. Mercury will be in Leo and it will still be resolving its retrograde. It will be direct, but it will be in its shadow. So some of the things that come up around this lunation may echo things that started to unravel in July. So be discerning, personally speaking, be discerning about what really needs fixing, as this is one of those situations that may be better off left alone. The wrench in the works is this new moon's square to Uranus and its quincunx to Saturn and Neptune. And Mercury is unaspected, which kind of makes it a little bit of a wild card as the ruler of this new moon. There's a lot in this new moon that's hard to predict. It doesn't go as expected. Even common sense doesn't work in this situation. New moon in Virgo is a kind of common sense new beginning. And so we may be going along and starting things. Let's say we start school. A lot here in Nashville, a lot of people start school in August. And so we're going about our business as usual. And then boom, something bizarre happens. And it's like, well, nobody could have seen that coming. Now, it doesn't have to be devastating. It can just be the unexpected. It can be serendipity. And it may have a Mercury in Leo quality to it, which is dramatic, which is loud and noisy, which is self-involved. I'm thinking about Donald Trump as the quintessential Leo rising in shadow form. So because Mercury in Leo is going to be in his first house, this may be, and he's a Mercury ruled Gemini, this may be his moment to really sound off. I mean, I could say that every single day now. But this new pragmatic beginning may be the result of a series of impulsive decisions made in quick succession. And here's something interesting. That's because Mercury and Mars will sextile twice within 5 days. They are leading up to this new moon. And because Mercury is the ruler of this new moon, we want to pay attention to what Mercury is doing in those days before. So on the 14th, Mars will sextile Mercury. And on the 18th, Mercury will sextile Mars. That's because Mercury is so slow. It's almost like it passes Mars twice. It's just beginning to pick up speed. Mars moves a little faster than Mercury catches up. So whatever those two coming together are trying to cook up, and they cook it up quickly and impulsively, and it may be a negotiation that accelerates and suddenly you're like, oh my God, that was fast. That went a lot faster and it went sideways a lot quicker than I expected, or we got that deal done in record time. And we may think we know more than we actually do, because it does feel like this new moon has a little bit of an information bomb to drop, some kind of sudden breakthrough or breakdown. So it could be positive in that Mercury is positively aligned to Mars at this point. And that means it will be a positive or an opportunity to accelerate a conversation, a negotiation, an idea. We may have some revelation around this new moon about how to keep things grounded and orderly in the midst of a shitstorm. That's another thing to think about. Like, we may have an idea, oh, here is the common sense approach to this absolute unusual situation that we're in. It may be the best bad idea situation. Virgo energy is very resourceful, and here Mercury is still recovering from its retrograde, still integrating lessons learned from a period of self-inquiry. And now there's maybe an attempt to do the right thing with all the information gained. So this may be that there's a new collective group of there's a new situation, a new group of people even, who we could describe as the change agents. And this new moon may be trying to rein them in with not a lot of luck. And really, that may be the moment where we are discovering, you know what, there's no going back to normal. There is this fly in the ointment here that is just not going to let us do the thing in the normal routine way. Okay. So those are kind of the broad overviews. I will just touch briefly on the other tidbits of the month, like Mercury, which will be retrograde until August 11th. All of the normal rules apply to Mercury retrograde, which is to, if you can postpone new decisions, things that have just sprung up during the Mercury retrograde as suddenly needing to be signed on the dotted line right away, this would be a time before August 11th to think twice before you sign an irrevocable contract or get rid of something that you're not sure you want to get rid of, or buy that mechanical thing that you just decided in the moment you needed. If this is something that has been ongoing well before July, then it may finally resolve during the Mercury retrograde. Sometimes Mercury retrograde allows us to circle back to the thing and get it done, finish it up. So I do want to point that out. It's also still a period of self-inquiry, a time to slow down in general. There's a lot that is accelerating, and you can make a choice to move slowly. You can move slowly and just let the tornado of information that is ongoing around us spin around you without letting it spin you out. So we will be cleaning up and resolving the July assessment, reassessment, negotiation process that took place in July up to August 11th. From August 11th to August 25th, we will be resolving that. We will be retracing our steps, revisiting agreements, revisiting decisions, and finishing those up. So decisions that were being negotiated during July and early August could now be declared resolved. And your own confusion or misunderstanding about your own creative process or your own need for life-affirming experiences may be cleared up by August 25th. August 25th, Venus enters Leo. Most of August, Venus is in Cancer. This is a very soft, tender, very sensitive, more emotional placement, and also very concerned with familial matters of the tribe, your family of origin. It may be that you get a little more nostalgic, a little bit more sentimental with Venus in Cancer through August 25th. It will be co-present with Jupiter, so that Cancer part of your life is likely to be the juiciest, the softest, the most receptive, the most kind, the most relaxing, the most self-indulgent. So wherever Cancer is in your chart, know that that is going to be your soft landing in August if things get to be too much. Once we get to August 25th, though, Venus moves into Leo, and the sun will be in Virgo by that point, ruling that Leo Venus. But Venus in Leo is a lot more bright and colorful and loud and dancing and likes to party. So this would be the time, as soon as that Mercury retrograde shadow completes, it's like the curtains part and suddenly the play goes on. The joy and dancing and opportunities to socialize and celebrate are Venus and Leo type of things. We also might get a little more demanding, a little more assertive about what we want and need, needing a lot more validation, a lot more applause. It's a good time to get a haircut. This is a 3-week period of more conspicuous consumption, more grand romantic gestures, and more loud parties. This celebratory period is especially evident from August 25th to 27th as Venus lights up the major alignment of the year, the one I've been talking about this whole broadcast. We may finally find our footing in this new paradigm by month's end. We have made adjustments and hard decisions, and now we get to enjoy this intense but lively and stimulating new paradigm. That speaks to Venus lighting up an opposition to Pluto, a sextile to Saturn and Neptune, and a sextile to Uranus. So we don't have a lot of ingresses, meaning we don't have a lot of changes of planets in new signs. We have Mars in Libra, which I talked at length about early on, as it will oppose Saturn for much of this month, and then it will make a nice alignment to Mercury, and that's pretty much it for Mars. And then we have the sun entering Virgo August 22nd. Basically, the new moon is when we start Virgo season. And then Venus enters Leo on August 25th. So really, if we just pay attention to the full and new moons, we really understand the astrology of August. My advice is to cultivate your own spiritual practice. I know that might sound trite, but even if that means staring out the window at the bird feeder for a few minutes every morning, something that can calm your nervous system down and put you back in the body, because the world at large, is continuing to have this historic breakthrough, and mainlining the news is probably not the healthiest thing to do, even though there is that almost addictive tendency we all have now to staying checked in at all times. If you must consume the news every day, I would say consume the news that is humorous, that gives you some news, but also makes you laugh, so that you are keeping that lightness of being activated. And just know that you do not have to hurry. I think we also have this artificial anxiety, this feeling of artificial hurry, artificial deadlines. We can slow down. In August, I think all of Europe takes a vacation. So we can slow down and be observant of the enormity of the change that's going on in our lives or in the world. There's a way to find that inner stillness, tap into that Saturn and Uranus sextile, that cultivating, and I'd say Saturn, the Neptune Uranus sextile, that spiritual sense of self. That is really going to anchor us during this period of time. Okay, everyone, that is it for August. I will be posting the horoscopes shortly here. I hope you have a peaceful and slow moving August. And if you need a reading from me, I am going to be starting grad school August 18th and will be reducing my availability 2 days a week, Thursday and Friday, with Saturday for special, by appointment. So let me know ahead of time if you need a Saturday appointment. But so book your appointments soonish if you feel the urgency. And just take care.